Hey Daria, how are you doing this morning?
Thank you. I'm doing just fine.
First of all, thank you so much for being on the podcast with me this morning, after afternoon or evening your time. What time is it there right now?
It's already afternoon. It's around 4 p.m.
4
So
p.m.
it's already almost the end of the working day.
Okay, and I know we're going to talk a little bit about your story here in just a few minutes, but um, currently you're in Poland. Is that correct?
Yes, that's right.
Okay, and how long have you been there in Poland?
I think almost for 2 months.
For 2 months. Wow. So you actually went to Poland at the very beginning, as this conflict, as this tragedy started.
I wouldn't be so sure because I already know how the missiles sound, so I also experienced
Wow.
everything. So, of course, it was the beginning, but as you know, right now the war can begin just like in one day,
Hmm.
and you just be in the middle of the war. So,
You know that is crazy for me to think about. I'm here in Dallas, Texas, and I've never experienced anything like what you've gone through over the course of the last couple of months. And so, tell me a little bit about your life before all this happened. What did you do? Tell me about your family. Give me a little information about who Daria is.
oh, I work at an ordinary job in just international company
Okay.
in Kiev. I just moved in into my new apartment in a small, beautiful city near the big city, Kiev. It's called Irpin. Why I choose this city? Because it has beautiful forests around, rivers, a lot of parks, a lot of like young families live there. So I was just hoping to enjoy my life. I just adopted a cat. It was also my dream to adopt a cat, so I did it. Like I was just living my dream. That I already have a house that I don't have to pay for, like monthly rent. Yes, so it's quite an achievement. I was living with my mom,
Okay.
and like we two was just building our life, like enjoying the new district. I would say because like in my on my street there's like every building is new. So it was built like for the last 5 years maybe. So it's quite new area.
So a very very new community.
Yeah.
So, and you said you were near on the outskirts of Kiev. Now, obviously, we have heard a lot about Kiev in the news here in the United States.
Hmm.
That there was a lot of battle and a lot of conflict that happened there. Um, do you know if they also entered into your part of town or?
Yes, right now, fortunately, thank God that right now there is no Russian soldiers in Kiev region because Kiev region is on the border, has the common border with Belarus. So right now, like it's like not far from Belarus. So if you want to go to Belarus, you just have to take 2 hours by car. So it's
Okay,
quite close.
got it.
I already know that Russian soldiers were in my apartment too. Actually, um, how I should say it. Yes, they were in my apartment. They tried to rob it. I like I haven't been there obviously, but
Right.
my neighbors send me pictures, and I don't have doors in my apartment. Can you imagine an apartment without doors?
Wow.
Yeah, that's how it is right now. So
That's
unfortunately. And I have a broken window because one of missiles fell into our yard, and a lot of like windows in my building and a building next to mine They have broken glasses. So fortunately, we have a roof. It didn't burn down, so like it's quite easy comparing to another buildings next to mine. Comparing to them, like it's quite like small damages. I mean, just a window and a door.
Right.
So
That's crazy. Again, I can't imagine imagine that happening here. I mean,
I still can. I'm sorry. I'm still can imagine
no,
too.
oh, I know, and this is so. It's still happening.
Yes.
Luckily, praise God, not in Kiev in your community, but I know in other parts of Ukraine, it's not good. It's simply not good, and so we have a our team is down south on the Ukrainian Moldova border, and that's where we have one of the crossings there. We're working with a lot of the nonprofits there, and have just heard stories and seen pictures, and it's amazing. So now, tell me about. Obviously, you said earlier you started to hear the bombs, you started to hear the missiles. When did you decide we need to go? When did you look at your mom and say we need to leave? This is getting serious.
I wanted to leave like maybe in 5 days time when the war started, because like of course the first days it was quite safe, like they never gonna come, I thought. But the Gostomel airport, where they also started like the first battles near Kiev, it's quite close to my city, because there's like small cities, they are like uh, one street ends like a small field, and then another city street of another city starts.
Right.
So I saw the fires, I mean the smoke from Hostomel airport, from Bucha. It was like very very close to me, because my house is like stands on the edge of the city Irpin, like the field, and then Bucha starts. So I started hearing all these missiles. I heard like bombs shelling in Borodyanka, because Borodyanka is quite close to like maybe 20 kilometers from our city too. So it's very quite close everything. And I heard like when they like bombed. Like um, I heard how the rocket was flying over my building too, because and then I heard the blow, and then I saw the pictures in a few like in an hour, and it was like shocking, because it was the first missile shot into my city, and I understood that I have to leave, but. One moment.
Yeah.
But my mom didn't want to leave because there is a situation in our communities when the older people, they don't want to leave their apartments, the place they used to live, because they are not like so used to moving or starting new life. I mean, because they don't have ability to work maybe when they come to new country, because they don't know language. Most of the old people, they don't speak any language except Russian and Ukrainian. So for them it was quite difficult, and for my mom too. So it took some time to convince my mom to move. So we prayed a lot. I also communicated with my colleagues. Thank God that I have colleagues in other countries too, who was just checking on me every day, like how I am. And when the lights went down, I mean electricity, there was no light, there was no heating in my apartment for a few days, and it was a winter actually, yes. So it was not so maybe freezing, but quite
It was
cold.
cold. Yeah.
So I said, my mom, I have to leave. I mean, I have to function, I have to work. So let's leave. And I have like one of my colleagues in Poland. He said that I will meet you at the border, so you have to get there. So and that's when I like start thinking how I should get from city which was under shelling bombs. I was under constant you can hear that they started shooting into missiles into Irpin,
Wow.
and I was like, oh my God, what should I do? Because you never know where the next missile will fly, and at least in your apartment or in your building in the basement, you're quite like a little bit more safe than on the
Right.
streets. So it took me some time.
So you guys made it from your apartment to the border. How long did that take you to get there?
3 days, I would say, because I was counting. Then the strike would start after 8 a.m. because I don't know, maybe they also wake up, yes, just have some breakfast and start work
Wow.
working. Yes, the ominous work. But and I knew that there was be like evacuation train in the morning and 10 a.m. So for every person together. And I decided to go, and we just started going on foot. But then we met some volunteers who were just driving people to their train station. So they took us and brought us, and then I found a bus. I mean, like a van. I would say it's a
Right.
van, and he took us to another part of Kiev. So I didn't took the train because actually the train never came because the exact same day I was leaving Irpin. The train, I mean, the Russians they shut the railway,
Wow.
so the train was not able to come. So every person who was on the train station they had to go to the broken bridge. And I know that like it's very famous pictures when the people crossing the bridge in Romanivka. It's one of the districts of Irpin. And actually that's very good that we left in the morning, because few hours after we left, the road we were driving was under attack, and like quite like a lot of cars were burned down, and a lot of people were just shot to death just
Wow.
because they were not on time to leave. So and actually like we have a rest we have a rest, and I was finally being able to eat and sleep, because when you know that there is like war outside, your body doesn't want to eat, doesn't want to sleep, just constantly thinking.
It's that kind of
In the
yeah, it's
stress.
that adrenaline and the stress of trying to. It's that.
Yes, because my mind was sound. I mean, like I was like very rational. There was no like crying. No, but my body was in
Mm.
stress. So I had to rest. So like, and then next day we took us. I took a bus provided by volunteers. Thank God for churches and volunteers in churches, because I knew that train station in Kiev was quite crowded.
Yeah.
Like a lot of people wanted to leave by train. So I left by bus to West Ukraine, and the next morning I just drove to the border and crossed it in like during 2 hours,
Wow.
because I took the small point where I can cross, not near Lviv, because Lviv was like extremely
Right.
crowded, and all the points were were busy and a lot of people. So I took the small one, and it took me only 2 hours to cross. And then my colleague met me, and like we like, whew.
Wow.
So we are safe.
And is your mom with you now?
Yes, she is with me. She is having rest. I mean, we found out that she had problems with her health. Thank God that for Polish government and Polish people, because right now Ukrainians can use some medical procedures for free.
Right.
So we were able to find out she has some problems with her health. So she's recovering at the moment,
Okay.
and we're trying to start a new life here.
In Poland. Let me ask you this: when did you mentioned you're traveling, you are the adrenaline is obviously flowing. You're trying to figure out how to get from point A to point B. Was there ever a moment once you made it safely into Poland, where you just kind of sat down and just, I don't want to say broke down because you're incredibly strong, and but was there a point where it just kind of hits you and you're just like, wow, and the adrenaline kind of wore off? What was that like?
Maybe a few hours after, not hours, maybe in a few days after we came to Poland, and I was just watching videos of destructions in other parts of Ukraine, maybe in Irpin, also another cities. Like we have a lot of cities which were like burned down. So, and I just started crying. So, but it was like. I would say that I will cry after the war ends because because I will see it with my own eyes. Because right now, if I see something which will like happen in my city, in city next to me, of course, maybe I can feel angry or I can feel frustrated or sorry, but I think I will cry like a lot after the war will end because I will see it with my own eyes.
Absolutely.
Because right now it's only like pictures, like any other news, so it's not so involving. I mean, your emotions are not so my emotions are not involved.
Right, and that's really the reason why I wanted to host this series of conversations with folks from Ukraine, is because here we get the media coverage, right? We see it on the news, we see it on on the online or wherever. But I think it's very different when you can hear from someone, as you've said, who's lived it, who's gone through it, and has the stories of what they experienced. There's a picture I remember, probably the first couple of weeks. I might be wrong here, but there was a Ukrainian. She looked like she was probably a grandma, and she was. You probably have seen this picture. She's standing there yelling at the Russian soldiers, basically defiant. And I just thought to myself, I wish that folks here in the United States, and some are this way, but I wish that some of them would understand what that symbolized, of having someone stand up and say, "This is my country, and you're not welcome. You're not welcome here." And that picture just resonates with me. I actually have I grabbed a screen cap of it because it speaks so loudly to me of the resilience and the passion. What are your thoughts on how your president is doing?
Oh, the first few days when there was a lot of confusion and we didn't know what to do, what's going on, like it all was all, for me, it was all of sudden because I and all other, like, of course, maybe somebody like was expecting, like half of my maybe friends were expecting it. But for me, it was like, we see that Europe, NATO, like United States, like Biden say, if you will invade Ukraine, you will see what we're gonna do with you, like.
Right.
So and like sanctions and all other stuff, and I thought like I think like any other European or American would say like, of course it's quite dangerous, and if I will go there, I will lose like everything. So I don't want to go there. But it was not what like Russians think. So and Putin thinks. So I was caught quite sudden that. And speech like videos of how my president stays in Kiev, how he says us like, hello, I'm here, I'm still here. All these videos with selfies on Bankova Street where his office is. It was quite warming and like engaging, and they encouraged me that we are still standing, because like in Europe they say that we have 72 hours to to stand, but still, there's 2 months and we are still here.
Yeah. Yeah.
Ukraine still exists, so
It does. It does. It stands, and that is so powerful.
mhm.
And it's interesting because from the perspective of someone living in the United States, we've been split here too. You have a segment of the population who is like, what are we doing? We've got to help. We've got to take action now. We've got to do something because we know, the capabilities of our military, and so, and then you have others who are like, oh, no, 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 we can't get involved in that. It's just another battle, Europe and da 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 da. And so it's interesting because it really has polarized even our population a little bit here, with people who are like, we got to do something versus, yeah, let's just let them handle it, and let me ask you this question: what can we do as an American population, the United States, non-militarily? Obviously, I have no control over that, but working in a nonprofit, uh, obviously, we are praying for you guys. We are believing. We are doing everything we can. What else can we do to really help you?
Maybe support more. I mean, like support us because I don't think that this war will end like in a few months. So, like right now, everyone wants to help, but if it takes longer,
Yeah.
it will be more difficult to find support because the war in Ukraine didn't start on 24th of February. It started 8 years ago when we decided to say to the Russians, like, we want to be with Europe, with United States, we want to go to EU. And there was a revolution on Maidan Square in Kiev. And after like a few months, Russia started invaded Crimea. I mean, just cut a part of Ukraine just like that, and then they start war on Donetsk and Lugansk region. So it was for 8 years already, but like half of Ukrainian population also was like, okay, that's somewhere else. It's not in my city, so I don't have to worry about this. So I think we have to think about the long support. I mean, maybe you can support like maybe with some education courses. I mean, maybe I know like because a lot of Ukrainians they left and they have some job connected to the place they lived.
Right.
And right now, maybe their education is not enough. Maybe I don't know. Like it depends on the person. So maybe education, like psychological support too, because actually Ukrainians are not used to go to the psychologists and to the therapy, any kind of. So like we are very tough.
Right.
So
Right. And
that's why maybe you will some maybe programs with education, with therapy, and all other stuff like this.
and obviously to rebuild once this is done, once this is over, there's going to be a lot of
Yes.
rebuilding that's going to
Yes.
need to take place. So to make Ukraine whole
Yeah.
again.
And about this rebuilding thing, I have a thought that that's good, like kind of good that they destroy these buildings because most of the buildings they destroy. I mean, like in Kharkiv, in Mariupol, in other parts of Ukraine, they were built in Soviet Union, and they were quite old and not so good looking.
Probably
But right
dangerous.
now they're destroyed, and we will build new ones, better ones.
Now that right there, that is making lemonade out of lemons right there. Hey, we get new buildings, new infrastructure. So
Like right now, we will like rebuild the cities, which will not like look like former Soviet Union buildings, and they all will be different, and they will be built with bomb shelters. Like in Israel, they build buildings like thinking about the war,
Right.
which might come. So I think right now we will be like this too. So.
that's
Because Russia will never go anywhere, So we have to be ready for war all the time.
yeah, that's wow. That's a statement right there. We have to be ready for war all the time. Um, well, I
Unfortunately,
yeah, very much unfortunately. Well,
But I think it's a kind of mentality as Switzerland have. So I think almost every person in their country, they also go. I mean, a male person goes to the military, so they know how to act. And the same is in South Korea, in Israel, and even Israel. They have like women and
Right.
men go to the military, just military
Right. The
service.
Israeli
So I
defense.
think the same will be in Ukraine too, because we have quite a lot women in Ukrainian army too. So
I'll tell you, I've had the privilege, and I really do consider it a privilege of traveling around Eastern Europe. I've spent some, obviously, a lot of time in Romania, in Hungary, and Austria, and it is a strong people, and you are incredibly strong. I can see it in your demeanor and the way you communicate, the way you carry yourself. You are an incredibly strong individual who by all means should have never ever ever have to have seen what you've seen. If you don't mind me asking, how old are you?
I am 32.
At 32 years old, there's no reason why you should have to have seen what you've seen over the course of the last several months, and it just goes to show you how strong you are as an individual. And I know that your brothers and sisters there in Ukraine are the same way. There's a sense of pride. There's a sense of this is our country, and this is who we are. And you fought for it. You fought for it in the past, and you'll fight for it now. And I'm sure you guys will fight for it in the future.
Yeah.
So, well, is there anything else
And
left that you want to share? Uh,
yes.
Please do.
I'm quite a talkative person. And actually, the one thing that helps Ukrainian to cope with the situation is our humor. We have a serious Chernobyl, we call it, because it's a place near Kherson, which is occupied right now. And Russians, I don't know why we bombed their machines in Chernobyl. It's like airport,
Yep.
yes, airfield, and they still bring their machines there. And we have already more than 10 times burned down their machines, but they still bring this, and we laugh oh, it's serious Chernobyl. And we have a lot of, and maybe when you see news from Ukraine, you think about serious stuff, but here in Ukraine we have a lot of humor. And actually, how to find out if this is Russian spy in front of you or not, you have to say the word palanitsa. And actually, this word, Russians, they can't pronounce this word because of the different sounds. They will pronounce. They will not pronounce it perfect as Ukrainians do. And actually, on Russian television, they said that this word palanitsa means strawberry, but actually it's not strawberry. It's just a bread, a round bread. I mean, which you bake in an oven. I mean, in 1 century ago, or every housewife would bake this round bread in an oven in a village house. So, and we don't use this word every day. So but every Ukrainian knows what it means. But
So,
strawberry.
so Daria, let me get this straight. Let me see if I understand you correctly. Our CIA has spent billions of dollars trying to figure out how to flush out Russian spies. And all we really needed to do was know
Yeah.
the word Polonezia.
Kind of, yes, Polonezia. But it only was a start. It was for the first few days. But then we have all these tricky questions about Ukrainian culture because we have tricky questions. If you don't live in Ukraine, you will never answer them because we have some maybe lyrics from the Ukrainian songs, maybe from some poems, and every Ukrainian knows.
Right. You know, it,
all this, but not Russians. Like we have like a test for Ukrainian.
It's a Ukraine. Well, we're kind of that way in Texas here because in Texas, we're a little different down here in Texas, and with the cowboys and all that stuff, and so we had kind of have our own way of talking. Sometimes we'll use words that people will be like, "What does that mean?" And it's like, you got to be from Texas. You got to be from Texas to know what that word means.
Yeah, so the same, yes. So we have like, and this kind of stuff, like and actually, I heard the stories that actually our local defense, they actually found out a few spies like this because they stop on them on the blog post and check and like ask a few questions and they don't know what to answer, the right answer, like. Come on!
Every Ukrainian knows that. Every Ukrainian knows the answer to that. So,
yes.
Go away.
And we actually have a lot of videos how Russian soldiers try to pronounce the word "palyanytsa," and they don't have a chance. They under stress because they have closed eyes. And they like in the captivity and like say "palyanytsa." They don't. I can't pronounce what they say because it's complete like some bubbly. So it's work. It really works. You have to follow these videos. Because I think because even in Poland they don't know these stories, but in Ukraine we'll like all these stories, small stories about. Of course, about the farmers who stole Russian vehicles. Have you heard the stories? Yes, but
I've not heard those stories. Farmers were stealing Russian vehicles.
Come on, because it's like, it was like first few like 2 weeks, and like, okay, Russians came here, like with their clothes for parade. I mean, the beautiful one. But they didn't took enough food and enough fuel. And when you go to to another country, yes, which is hostile to you, and of course there will be an end of fuel, obviously, because you drive into the. And there is no there is no petrol station welcoming you because every petrol station might be empty already. Because Ukrainians took all this fuel and run away. I mean, who has cars? And and some farmers they found and some soldiers they just go out of their vehicles and go for food and petrol. And while they go, Ukrainians took Ukrainian farmers took their trucks, took these vehicles and took him with trucks.
That is so
trucks,
funny.
It's so funny to see. And even gypsies stole one of the tanks, I would say. I think it was tank or something. We have gypsies also in some parts of Ukraine, and they just stole one of these vehicles and said, come on.
Well,
then we have also fun stories that we have farmers forces.
So now we've got Ukrainian farmers driving tanks out in their fields. Great.
Yes. So, because Russians, of course, right now it's not like that because and actually after they fled Kiev and Chernihiv region and I think Sumy region, right now there is no soldiers. They left like a lot of vehicles, armed vehicles, like. Just like you just have to switch them on, just make some repairment, a little bit, like some maybe, and you can use by far even Mr. Zelensky says that the most who provides Ukraine with the most tanks and vehicles. Can you guess
which
country?
Russians, because they're leaving them all behind.
Russia.
Oh.
Because so we have a lot of stories like this actually.
Awesome. Well, Daria, I want to thank you so much for your time this morning. I have really enjoyed laughing with you for the last few minutes because it's a joy to see someone who can put a smile on their face and make fun of the people who invaded the country, and I know that Ukraine is going to be strong, and you can well bet that I'm going to be one advocating that our country, the United States, does everything we can to support the Ukrainian people. And my mission is to help raise funds and to get other nonprofits and other people, engaged. And like you said, it's a long battle. It's not something that's going to just go away overnight. It's something that's going to take some time. So I really, really appreciate your time this morning. And I'm sorry. I have to ask, and I hope this isn't a sore subject. What happened to the cat?
Oh, my cat, she is perfect. She is with me, obviously. Yes. Of course, we have like a lot of people. They left their animals because they panicked. They didn't know what to do with their cats, their dogs, and other pets. And maybe some people thought that they will come in a week, but we have like. In the building next to me, like one of our neighbors wrote in a comment chat, "Don't worry, right now, like my neighbor tries to save my cat, so please don't worry that he will be hanging out of the window." So we had even like these stories because a lot of people panicked. But as for me, I took my cat with me.
Real quick, and then I'll let you go. But a funny story is, so we have our clinics in our churches down in Moldova and Borrelia, Romania, and we're seeing hundreds of guests come in and out each night to as we help them along their way. And one thing we never planned for was everyone bringing their pets. And so I was talking to one of our pastors down in Moldova. And I said, how's it going? How's it going? And he said, well, it's going really well, but it's kind of starting to smell a little bit. And I said, well, that's kind of rude. I mean, after everything these folks have been through. And he's like, no, not. He's like, they have all their animals, and all their animals keep going on the floor. And he's like, we had no idea people were going to be bringing cats and dogs and all these animals. So that is something we had to quickly plan for.
If you can support Ukrainian organization who provide help for pets who were left without their humans, yes, people. Maybe if you can provide the food for them. I mean, because actually I follow the shelter which I took my cat from. And thank God they have support, but maybe we have a lot of cats and dogs left. So if you can provide support, we will appreciate.